The Source is very happy to welcome musician Elliot Lurie to the show, lead guitarist, songwriter, and co-lead vocalist for the band Looking Glass. They are probably best well known for their 1972 #1 hit single, Brandy, You're a Fine Girl. Elliot will be performing at the Seneca Niagara Resort and Casino in Niagara Falls, New York. He joins fellow musicians Peter Beckett, Christopher Cross, and Ambrosia for the Yacht Rock the Dock concert Saturday, July 20th.
Western Bay, and it serves 100 ships a day.
Elliot, Brandy came out in 1972, and it's been a part of music history even till today. Does it really feel like 52 years ago?
Some days it does, and some days it doesn't. It depends on how I'm feeling.
You know, the single reached #1 on both the Billboard Hot 100 and the Cashbox Top 100 charts for people at home. I did a little research on the single's success, and remember, this was way before the internet. I discovered that the record label's promotions manager took a test press of the song to every radio station, and it was in the Washington-Baltimore region. Is that right?
Yeah, what happened was we had released something else as the first single from the album.
Okay.
And the promotion man from the Washington, D.C. area, whose job it is to get the radio stations to play the label's records, went to see the head of programming at a station in Washington. The guy's name was Harv Moore. And he said to him, "Harv, have you heard the new Looking Glass thing?" And he said, "Yeah, we've played it a couple of times, but we're not really getting any reaction to it at all." And the promotion man said, "Well, I'd like you to listen to this other track from the album off this test pressing." And he played it, and Harv Moore liked it. He put it on the air right from the test pressing. And the phones lit up, as they say, like a Christmas tree, with people requesting it and asking what it was. And then the label released it as a single, and it spread out from Washington, D.C.
Now, some of your younger fans may be more familiar with the song when it was used in the film Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. That came out in 2017. At the time, did you find out that a new legion of fans were getting familiar with this song?
Well, I did, because obviously the movie was huge, and the song was used very prominently in the movie. And I could see that, you know, suddenly the streams were going way up, and the videos were getting played much more often. So, yeah, it was really great, because it really introduced a whole new generation to the song.
And I heard that once Brandy came out, the name Brandy increased in popularity as a girl's name in the U.S. What was it like to be so young and not only have a #1 record, but to be such an influence in other ways in the United States?
You know, we had hoped and aspired to have a big hit record. And when it became as big a #1 record as it did, we were overwhelmed. And it was quite an experience, being 23, 24 years old and having your life change that way. It was cool.
You know, the following year, you followed up Brandy with the top 40 single, Jimmy Loves Marianne, then decided to go solo, releasing a couple albums. Then in the 1980s, you turned your skills to music producing, heading up the music department at 20th Century Fox, and I know you're in Los Angeles right now. Tell us about some of those films you worked on producing their soundtracks.
It was a whole second career for me, and I was very fortunate that it still involved being creative in music. It was also a very heavy business load on that job too, especially working for a major film studio. You know, I'd never had a real job before, and suddenly I'm in the executive suite at a major film studio. So it was quite a learning curve for me. But I worked on a bunch of great movies with a lot of very interesting people.
Now you're back to your #1 job, which is recording live. What was the draw to get you back into performing music?
What happened was, after I had done, I must have been in that music supervision and working in film and TV music for almost 25 years. I actually hadn't played much, and it took me about a year to get my chops back and start playing the guitar again and get my voice up. And I got a call from a group called Yacht Rock Review. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but if you're not, you should be. Yacht Rock Review is a terrific band out of Atlanta, Georgia. And I guess in some respects, you could just call them a cover band because they play other people's material, but they play an entire repertoire of the greatest yacht rock songs, Michael McDonald, All and Oates, all those kinds of things. And they asked me to come down and play with them in Atlanta. And I had never heard of yacht rock before. I didn't know who they were. And I went down there and I played a show with them, and there were 5,000 people in this park in Atlanta wearing the captain's hats, you know, the yacht rock hats, and just partying and having a good time and singing along to the words of every song. And I started performing with Yacht Rock Review from time to time, and then got back into it, doing all different kinds of performances. But they were the ones who really brought me back into performing live about 13 years ago.
That's great. Your fans on both sides of the border are looking forward to your concert at the Seneca on July 20th. Have you been to Niagara Falls before?
Well, as you say, I did play the Riviera, and I went on a trip with my parents to see the Niagara Falls when I was a little kid. I've never been. Now, the Niagara, that's on the U.S. side, though, right?
That's right. And we're actually coming from the Canadian side, but have you been on the Canadian side?
What's that?
Have you been on the Canadian side?
Only when I visited the falls as a kid. That's the only time. I've been to Toronto many times, but not to Niagara Falls.
It probably has changed, just so you know, but you are appearing with a few names I think our viewers are familiar with. Can you fill us in on who else will be at the concert?
Yeah, well, this one, Christopher Cross is headlining, and then we're doing what we call Rock the Dock or Ambrosia and Friends. It's a show that we go out with often. Ambrosia does their own things, but they're also kind of the house band or guest artists. And on this particular show, there's myself and Peter Beckett from Player, Baby Come Back. And this Rock the Dock or Ambrosia and Friends shows, they change from time to time. We do a bunch of them with John Ford Coley, occasionally Walter Egan, Al Stewart, but this one's going to be Christopher Cross headlining, and myself and Peter Beckett with Ambrosia.
Now, I believe my producer told you earlier that he will be attending with a friend who just loved the song, and it was such a big part of their youth. I'm sure you've heard countless similar stories from people who said Brandy was such an important piece of music growing up. That must be very gratifying to hear. After 52 years, do you ever get tired of playing that song?
I never do.
Never do.
I never do. And what's interesting about it is that I play with a lot of bands because very often I don't have my own band, so very often I'm playing with whether it's Ambrosia or another house band, and they all enjoy playing it because it's a little more complicated musically than your average pop song, so they enjoy getting into it, and I never get tired of singing it. I love it.
Well, just a reminder to our viewers that Elliot, Christopher Cross, Peter Beckett, and Ambrosia will be appearing at the Seneca Niagara Casino and Resort on Saturday, July 20th at 8 p.m. You can visit SenecaNiagaraCasino.com for ticket information. Elliot, thanks again, and we're looking forward to seeing you in Niagara Falls, New York next month.
Thanks so much for having me. Enjoyed it.